All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for taking time out today to join us. We are the Founder Institute, and we're joined here by some brilliant guests. And today's topic is going to be on how to make the leap from employee to entrepreneur, because we know there are a lot of burning questions out there. But before we get into that, what is the Founder Institute? The Founder Institute is the world's premier and largest pre-seed startup accelerator with a mission to empower talented individuals to launch enduring and impactful companies worldwide, tech-enabled. Founder Institute started 10 years ago in Palo Alto, and by now it has chapters in over 200 cities across 60 countries. It has graduated 4,000 companies, and they have a total valuation of $20 billion and have created 20,000 jobs as well. Those companies have gone on and had huge successes. 30 plus companies have been acquired, and they've collectively raised just under $1 billion from investors from all over the world. Some of the companies and our co-investors are on the screen. You may recognize some of the names like Udemy, Y Combinator, and Techstars. We are pleased to bring the Founder Institute to Dubai. The three lovely smiling faces you see on screen are the co-directors of the Dubai chapter. Sandhya Prakash has spent 25 years in Saudi and Dubai. She's, over the last odd years, she set up 8 different companies from different industries, including software, education, industrial products, and is currently the founder and managing director of Beacon Energy, a renewable energy that deals with solar and wind energy based in Dubai. She's thoroughly enjoying this process, thoroughly working with helping people launch companies, and she's also a singer and bird watcher. Samir Sorthur is the founder and CEO of Square Circle Global, a management consulting firm based in Dubai with a global footprint for cultivating next generation. He specializes in building tech ventures, corporate innovation, market entry, and tech and IP commercialization. And my name is Karan. I am a former entrepreneur. I work with corporate innovation to build the next big thing for large organizations and in corporate venture capital. I'm also an advisor and mentor to different startups and accelerators. We've set up a great list of partners in this region to help cater to the founders that will be coming through the program. Our program starts on 1st September, and the link to join or for more information is there. But we have a list of partners from government, technology, legal, and more. So without further ado, why are we here today? Today we're here to learn about making the leap, or for people who really want to know what it takes to build a startup and from where do you start. According to a Kaufman report, in the US alone, there are 540,000 new business owners every month. But another popular statistic is that 95% of startups fail. So what do you need to make it? And to help answer those questions, we are joined here today by a stellar panelist of judges. First up, I'd like to introduce Joy Ajlouny. She is the founder and C-suite of Bonfair and fetchr. Collectively, over the last years, she's raised $100 million in venture capital funding, which is the largest raised, correct me if I'm wrong, largest raised in the Middle East by a woman. That is an achievement.
Yes.
And now, many ears might prick up with our attendees. She's also launched her own investment initiative and is funding. We're also pleased to have Ibrahim, the founder and CEO of Mr. Usta. Mr. Usta is the one-stop shop to take care of everything in your house. But true to the nature of this webinar, he's also a former corporate veteran. Just a few years ago, he spent many years in Nokia and other companies building technology and businesses. Thanks for being here, Ibrahim.
It's a pleasure.
We're also joined by Marie-Christine Luijckx, and I really hope I got that right. Yes, I did. She is the managing partner of Fruitful Day. Fruitful Day is an e-commerce company for fruit box subscriptions for your home and office. She's also the board member for EO Accelerator. And she's also a former corporate veteran with years in finance in Barclays and Deutsche Bank. And last but not the least, we have John Edward Santillan, who's the founder of Denarii Cash. Denarii Cash, if you're not aware, is a money transfer app with zero fees to the country of your choice. And over the last few months, and it's a new startup, and over the last few months, it's really seen an exponential growth. He's also very recently taken the leap from corporate to entrepreneurship and having experiences in Etihad, Tejawal, and other companies. So welcome everyone. How are you all doing?
Good. Excited to get some really interesting conversation going where we can actually help people to make that leap from corporate to founder. Let's get them to make that big leap today.
The world could definitely need more entrepreneurs.
For sure. The World Economic Forum always speaks about how it's definitely the way for job creation in the future. Absolutely.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm going to start right off the bat. This is one question for all of you, and I'm going to take turns, or if everyone's being polite, I will just call out the name. Short, crispy answers. So the first question for all of you is, what is that one most important change in mindset for someone looking to make the leap? Okay, I'm gonna go in the order of all of you.
You wanna? Okay, you want me to go first, or are we going to? I think the mindset is basically you got to be a risk taker, and you have to understand that the mindset has to be that you're really passionate about what it is that you have an idea, and I think the mindset has to be that you see a solution to a problem. Right? Your mindset has to be like, wait a minute, I keep seeing this problem over and over and over. And you know what? I have an idea. I have a solution. So I think it's the way that you think. It's about problem solving. And that's really the first step. Are you passionate about solving a problem?
Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Joy. Marie, the one most important change in mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Joy. I would add to that you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable if you're going to make the leap to entrepreneur. I think in a corporate, you can lean on others when something's outside your skill set, but often as a founder and CEO, it's up to you, and you've got to go and figure out how to solve that problem, going back to what Joy said. And even if it makes you uncomfortable, you're going to have to get comfortable with it in one way or another.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a really
good point. I mean, everybody thinks, that the road to entrepreneurship is, you see these guys in Silicon Valley wearing flip-flops and cut-off shorts, and then you see them becoming billionaires. So you're like, oh yeah, but somewhere between wearing flip-flops and becoming a billion-dollar company, there's a whole lot of stories and a whole lot of growth and a whole lot of pains in between. And I think the mindset for this is that, look, you have to be really, really passionate about what you're doing, because, it's going to get tough. And unless you really adore what you're doing, and unless you really love it, the bumps in the road are going to make you quit. So, you really have to have a mindset that is set, like, I'm going to do this no matter what. Like, it's almost a stubbornness. It's almost like this relentlessness, this mindset where you're like, I don't care. I'm going to make this happen. Yeah. You have to change your mindset from rejection. I always say that if you're the kind of person who takes rejection to heart, then you got no business being an entrepreneur, because being an entrepreneur is all about being rejected. People see all the funding that comes in, but what they don't see is that, we pitched 300 people and one said yes.
I agree. A lot of
But
people know
they don't see the 300. They only see the couple that we got. So,
it's who's in the press, right? The success stories. Everyone probably knows in theory how to start a startup. There's enough content out there, but many people don't realize how actually difficult it is and how it consumes your life. So, Ibrahim, what is that one most important change in mindset?
I totally agree, both, and I can add the lifestyle. I think there is no more like I'm taking 3 days off, or I'm going this weekend off and I'll not reply my emails, or I can reply this email like next week, because your lifestyle is your work right now. And any email that you reply one day earlier or one day later could change your life. That person could be the one, as Joy mentioned. So the work becomes more your life, because every action you make will create a reaction, and which is a positive or negative for you. So you are dedicated to the work, and everything you do about the work. So your lifestyle definitely will change, and it's not like corporate at all.
Yeah, and I think you raised a good point, is how do you filter through the noise as well, right? You, as a first-time entrepreneur or as an early entrepreneur, you would want to try to grab every opportunity there is. But how do you take a step back and actually focus on what could have the most impact? Thank you, Ibrahim. John, over to you. What's the one most important mindset?
I think for me, I mean, the mindset it's kind of a broad perspective, right? The way I see it is like the first thing that you need to understand is what's your purpose, right? I mean, like what Joy and I would like to echo on what she mentioned, right? Startup is not for the faint of heart, right? Building companies it's not an easy job. So I guess the first thing that you need to ask is why are you doing it and what's the purpose? And there's a lot of setting mindset on each and every level of the process of building a company. It could be dealing, what is your mindset dealing with the grand vision or the problem that you're trying to solve. Raising money is another mindset of, feel that you will receive like 100 rejection and one will actually reply and hopefully will become successful. Rejection from the customers, right? I guess the first thing that I would say is identify your purpose. Why are you doing it? Because you know that this is a very, very tough job. It's, like it's a 24/7 job. I always said that, I'm a morning person, but after this whole pandemic, I becomes a 24/7 person. It doesn't really stop. Accept the fact that it will be an ongoing work, and adapt it and be flexible on that one. So be positive in terms of setting your mindset, but overall it's, going back on the purpose and why are you doing it.
Yeah, I think these are some really great points, right? And these are some of the things people in corporates struggle with. They have a structure. They, like Murray, that was a great point you brought up. You have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable and not work till you're perfect. So, John, what do you think, right? Career employees tend to get comfortable with structure. You made the leap, in less than 2 or 3 years ago. How challenging was this shift for you, and how did you tackle it?
Oh, sure. I mean, for me, it was really during when I quit Etihad Airways 3 years ago. I already decided that I would like to pursue entrepreneurship. It's more on an exciting part rather than a challenge for me, because I've been living in the UAE for the last 15 years. I've done my fair share of corporate life for more than 12 years. So before I even quit, I've been doing company buildings on the side. And what I've noticed during that 5 years of doing, building a startup a couple of years back was more on, I cannot make this one, this company successful if I'm not going to focus into only one thing that I would like to really do. And that's when I decided to quit. I think the most challenging part for me is the process of, quitting from the corporate job and then, building these new practices of relying into, like no income for the next couple of years, right? And building everything from the scratch. I'm sure people know, like, if you're working in the government, you have this luxury of, especially in the airline industry, you have this luxury of, getting all this incentive from your company, education for the kids, travel allowance, accommodation, and all of those stuff. And I myself, having 3 kids, that's mainly most of my challenging, right? So people around me setting the expectation of, hey, when I start talking to friends and families that I would like to pursue the entrepreneurship, Not everyone likes it, right? And I respect on that one. But I believe that, I've done my fair share in the corporate job. And I think the main challenging part is like when I start explaining to my kids and to my wife that whenever we start traveling again, there will be no more business class and first class. So I guess that's the first, that's the main challenges for us.
Yeah, no, it is. It's quitting is scary, right? And you don't know the right time. The right time is different for different people. And quite often you need to do your homework before you're in that stage, especially if you have additional responsibilities like you mentioned. So Marie, what are your thoughts on that? Oops, I lost the question. What should an aspiring entrepreneur do before they quit their job?
So I spent about 8 years working for Deutsche Bank and Barclays, and then I took out a year maternity, and then after that I never ended up going back to work, and I started my company. And so I didn't make the decision to become an entrepreneur while I was still at work. It was during that maternity when I had some time out to think, and I just completely changed my life altogether. So I think one of the things for me is like I'm a people person, right? I was in a business development role at Barclays, and so I thought, okay, you're going to have a lot of connections to get a business started. And I said, I know a lot of people in the banking world. This is going to help me. But actually, when you start a business, the questions that you have are completely different than ones that someone who's working in a corporate organization can necessarily answer, right? These are real world challenges of managing cash flow and all sorts of other things that you come up against as an entrepreneur. So I think one of the things that if I was, going back and doing it over, it would be to try to network with other entrepreneurs aiming to start businesses ahead of actually starting my business, so that you've got that group to lean on, because it's quite lonely when you start your business and you need the support. Because it's quite lonely when you start your business and you need the support.
No, it is. You don't know where to start and you don't know who to speak to. But, how do you even reach out to people? Number one question, the top two questions people have when starting a business here is, how do I get funding and how do I find my customers? How do I find my big customers? On that note, Ibrahim, you've had a really successful story with Mr. Usta, from a really good, seed funding round in your early years. And I know it would have been difficult getting that to your recent big partnership with MAF. Would love to hear more about that partnership. And if you could share some advice on how can people network, how can entrepreneurs network with investors and big customers?
Sure, yeah. I think really they need to have a plan about networking too. It's not just networking with everyone or joining every single organization and everything. So your time is very valuable when you are an entrepreneur as well. So you need to use it really, really well. So you need to choose your target network, who you should network with. For myself, I put these targets like the people who would be interested with me in terms of investment or in terms of partnership too. So I'm not going to network with a space agency because I'm not doing anything for space, if it's an example. So I chose a couple of companies who I could potentially partner with. And I tried to find some people who have a say in that company. So they should be some decision makers or people who can change the minds of decision makers. So definitely you need some internal advocate in that company who would advocate you in those internal meetings, because their corporations really don't have time. They don't need to test a lot of different things. So maybe you have only one shot and you have to really, really to take that shot really, really serious and do it well. So couple of them, I started to stalk them on LinkedIn. So I look where they are going, which events they are joining. So I start to meet them, not once. I didn't pitch them at the first meeting, maybe second one and third one. Then I tried to explain them how I can add value to those people and their corporates too. For example, recently I did with Majdal's team. The idea is there. They really needed some quality after sales services care. And I really pitched them that I can do it for you. You don't need to worry about it. And I start to meet people inside the organization, and I convinced them for a pilot and trial. Before that, even they decided to do a trial, I did my homework. I really demonstrated how I will do the pilot and what are the values that I'm going to add them. And if you really clearly put in front of them and do the most of the work, because again, they are really busy people, and they are excited once, so it doesn't take very long time for them to get excited. So you need to do it very quick also, because their attention span is very short. So I did a good couple of pilots with them, and the values that I promised to them, I demonstrate them, and I show how I can add them value. And then after that, it was easy for me to convince the other stakeholders. And I believe it is not only also focusing on one person or one department there, because if someone really is not liking your idea, or if they think that you are going to make their life more difficult or create extra work for them, most probably they will try to kill your idea internally. So you have to really make everyone comfortable about you coming in there. And it's like a marriage, right? So you have to be good to your also mother-in-law and father-in-law, and also brother-in-law, and everyone, make them happy. So after that, it's getting easier.
Yeah. I think people don't realize that companies, especially larger the company, it has many gatekeepers and many different people. And larger the company, it's not an ideal state, but they operate in silos. So, you increase your chances of luck by speaking to more people. I think another thing that people tend to simplify in their minds is that the length of time it takes to establish an effective partnership. Could you tell us how long it took you to establish this partnership with MAF?
More than 1.5 years, and I changed maybe a couple of project managers, and I had to resell my idea to these new project managers too. And for one decision or for one meeting, sometimes I wait for 1 month, and I need to explain everyone in 1 hour what I'm going to do, all these value I'm going to create for them. So for 1.5 years is not a very long time for them. For me, it is a one investment fund, time. But for them, it's like 13 salaries, right? It's better for them if they keep getting salaries. But for me, I need to be quick before the next funding. I need to get it done, sign the papers, so I can get better investors.
Yeah, brilliant. And congratulations once again.
Thank you very much.
Joy, I'm going to ask you a question. You've jumped from startup to startup and scaled it to global scales. And now you're actually creating your third different initiative. So my question is, how do you decide what next? What caused you to jump from Bonfair to fetchr, and from fetchr to what you're doing now? You're on mute. You're on mute, Joy. Sorry.
Can you hear me? Sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah. So Bonfair was acquired in a merger and acquisition deal. Moda Operandi bought the company out of New York. So that was just a given. It was acquired. So that was a win. And fetchr, I exited about 1.5 years ago. So I've raised over $100 million, and I kind of want to be. I've gone from being a funder, a founder. Now I'm a funder. So I'm interested in investing. So I've invested in startups, and that's where I've spent most of my time. I've listened to 200 decks since I've left fetchr, and I kind of have a really good idea, because the best investors are always ex-entrepreneurs, because we understand, we've been there. We've been, on the other side of the table. So I really understand what it is to be an investor, and able to give really good, tips on how to structure a deck, how to pitch, who to pitch to, because I've done it twice. I think I must have pitched at least, 200-300 venture capitalists between my two companies, and the majority of them in Silicon Valley, and here as well, so both. But now I'm an investor on the other side, and I've invested in a couple of really great deals that are doing really, really well. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, this is now my passion. I'm on the other side of the fence.
How does it feel?
You know, it's really interesting to see all these people who want to leave their day jobs, you know, which is the whole point of this conversation today, right? And they come forward, but what's really interesting is that it's all about the team. You know, being a single founder is very tough. Like VCs will tell you that they don't invest in single founders. They just don't like single founders. So a lot of the problems I'm seeing is that you got to find a team, because in early stage, people invest in, believe it or not, the team first, and then the idea second, right?
Yeah.
So like if you're somebody who, I don't know, I'm going to come up with something ridiculous. If you're somebody who works in an ice cream company for 20 years, right? And you created an ice cream that you know is protein and fat free, and you come to me and you say, hey, I worked in an ice cream company for 20 years, and you know, I want to create this product. Well, I'm going to give you money because you have knowledge, right? But you have knowledge in product. Now I need to know that your partner has knowledge in marketing. So you need a team. It's not, single founders are not a good idea. And because in the beginning, all of it is about investing in the person. And then the idea of course is important, but really you'll ask any venture capital, it's all about the team.
Yeah. It's risky being a solo founder. One is you have certain amount of skills, but then the risk is falling in love with your own idea. You need someone who can complement your skills, but challenge you, right? And challenge you in different ways. I think co-founders.
It's a marriage. A co-founder is a marriage.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, you will spend more time with your co-founder than you will with anybody else. I mean, every phone call, every minute, every pitch, everything you do. I mean, you will literally, you know, you're married. And so, you know, most co-founders, you know, they've only known each other for a week, 2 weeks, and then they decide to, you know, get married. And that's usually not a good idea, because majority wind up getting divorced. So you really need to find compatibility. If you're a sales guy, then you need somebody who's a tech person. So you need, and I found in my experience, opposites are best. You don't want two people who have the same personality, same skill set. You want somebody who complements you, not clashes.
Yeah, easier said than done.
But it's hard. It's hard. It's very hard, you know. And here, people ask me all the time, well, how do I find, I mean, I've talked to so many companies, they're like, well, how do I find a co-founder? And I'm like, ay. It's like asking somebody, well, how do I find a husband? It's like, I can't answer that. Like, you know, you gotta.
I just saw a question pop up in the chat, which we can get to later. How do you beware of backstabbers? I think that's a hilarious question as well, but important. But you mentioned co-founder, you mentioned marriage. If I take those two literally, Ibrahim, your co-founder happened to be your wife. How was that literal marriage? How did that happen?
Yes, that's correct. But the reason is exactly what Joyce said. I knew that she was a great marketing person. So as I have it next to me and as I know her, and I worked with her also in Nokia. She was in my team in Nokia too. So we met there and married. So I knew that we got along in terms of business and in terms of I need her also expertise too. That's why it worked for me. But after the first year, of course, you know, everything is going well. She helped me establish.
Are you still married?
Yeah, a couple of times we had crisis, that's for sure. Because it was like a marriage between her and me and Mr. Usta as well. So it was a three marriage. And
no, because there's statistics on that. We can talk offline about that.
But then we decided get Dunya out of this equation. So I decided married with Mr. Usta, and she's out of it because it's really tough. Because our 24 hours became only work. So we didn't talk anything else. So that was really tough. And also financially, it's not easy too. So because you put all your eggs in one basket and something goes wrong, and it's a long journey. But she helped me a lot while setting up the business, because I needed quick action there, and she provided that quick action, and we have like minds. She helped me a lot there.
No, great stuff. I'm glad to hear you're still married, and everything is going well.
he's the rare. He's the exception. He's the exception.
Yes. Luckily.
Entrepreneurship and marriage both have ups and downs. Combining them together.
Well, we can talk about WeWork if you want.
Yeah.
But we won't go there. We won't go there.
Maybe another webinar. I think that needs another webinar. Start talking about SoftBank and everyone else. Murray, you have a co-founder as well, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. I actually have 2 female co-founders. I used to work with their husbands in banking. So we we worked together. I worked with their husbands for 6 years. So I knew them for a long time before we started the company together. And we're all still in the business together. And definitely the track record of having good times and bad times, both with a husband and wife, because, sometimes conflict then leads to conversations with the other partner. Having had the background of already going through that, I knew what I was getting into. So I'm one of the fortunate ones that has a great relationship with my co-founders.
Yeah, no, it's great that you have 2 other female co-founders, right? So, women in this region, in VCs and venture capital or venture development, there's a huge discrepancy. So being a former woman corporate executive and now, having a successful company of yourselves with 2 other women entrepreneurs, what advice would you give to help balance that discrepancy, and to people looking to make that leap, to women looking to make that leap?
Just don't think of yourself as any differently. We can do it. I don't know that I have any particular advice. I just think sometimes we stand in our own way. So as soon as you start believing in yourself, everyone else will start believing in you, but it has to start with you. Yeah,
I think that's the advice for the ecosystem, right? They're just people. Everyone's just people. How do we balance the discrepancy in the boardroom, in C-suite level?
There is I'm passionate about this, but there is a huge discrepancy, right? California just made it a state law as of January that there must be at least 1 woman on a publicly traded company, and if there's 5 board members, they need to have at least 2 women. And Goldman Sachs won't even look at you unless your board has a woman on it. So these are just recent changes that happened in the United States. So this is something that, and the venture capitalists, I can tell you 7 years ago when I pitched all the VCs, I was always the only girl surrounded by a boardroom full of men. And just now, they've gotten the single token woman VC, and there's maybe only 20 of them. So yes, there is a discrepancy and it needs to change, not even a question. And by the way, it's a fact that women venture capitalists, by the way, get higher returns. I don't know if you knew that. That's not nonsense. That's actually a true stat. Yeah. So but I think the tables, look, as long as the more women who start exiting, like Fruitful Day and other women who start exiting from their companies and making money, the more the ecosystem is going to change towards them. Because at the end of the day, it's about making money, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. United, right? John, Denarii crash grew exponentially during this weird time, the COVID time. It's an unprecedented situation for many. Could you share your pre-COVID and during COVID journey, and how did you adapt to it?
Oh, sure, of course. Well, what's interesting for us is when we started Denarii in 2019, our focus was always Filipino first. Reason for that is I'm a Filipino, and we thought that would be easy for us to acquire, the tight-knit community in the UAE, and that's when we decided to do that. During the second week of March, when the pandemic hit, we've seen a huge high tailwind of users that start registering to our application, which is outside our target market. So we've seen like different communities like the Indian diaspora, the Pakistani, Bangladesh, and other demographics as well. We knew that we're going to open up to new corridors, but it's not something that we will be deciding this year. However, during those pandemics, we noticed that there's a lot of people that are looking for alternative solutions to send money back home. that's when we decided that we would be opening it to other corridors as well. So between second week of March until now, I mean, we're growing like double every single week because we start continuously opening up the corridor. Of course, it's not an easy task for us, because for us to offer a money transfer service, we need to make sure that we have a better infrastructure from the receiving side. And by opening up to these new countries, for example, to Indians, Pakistans, and other countries within the neighbor in the region, is, you know, we need to build this infrastructure from the receiving side as well. So we kind of work above and beyond, like working 24/7 a day to make sure that we can integrate this new, offering this money transfer service to other community, but at the same time, building the infrastructure from the receiving side. And we're so grateful that we've done this after 4 weeks during the pandemic. And when we start opening up to other corridors, we've managed to acquire about 1.2 million users for the span of 8 weeks. So it's really incredible. But of course, the demand is there, but the challenge is like, there's a lot of challenge from the technology. People are complaining. So I would say it's good to have, even though there's a lot of things that's happening from the bad side, but we're trying to improve on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis. And we managed to hire people to help us in the customer support. And now in the next coming weeks, we're opening up to 5 more countries. So we're just continuously growing. And I always said it's an unfortunate circumstances for everyone on what's happening during this time. But in our case, it's very fortunate that it happens that we are one of the industry that, you know, got a positive effect in terms of this situation, and we're leveraging that one.
Yeah, really great to see entrepreneurship like this, which is actually having an impact to societies at large. Congratulations, 1.2 million in 8 weeks.
That's 1.8, right?
There you go.
It's 1.1, yeah.
1.8 or 1.2?
It's 1.2 million users, but actually, like now it's more than 2.4 million users now in the application.
That's amazing.
So
that's amazing. Amazing.
It's great. It's crazy.
John and Joy, you both are right next to each other on my screen. Entrepreneur, investor, go, go wild. Now, huge congratulations. It is a difficult time for everyone, but that's what entrepreneurship is. And I think this is the focus of many people now. You know, whether your situations are hard or whether you've found a new problem or gap that you want to fix, how do you go and fix it? Have a problem-oriented mindset, realize it's going to be difficult, but go for it. And I'm sure all of you would have had amazing learnings, amazing regrets. So one question for all of you, and I'm going to, one by one. In one sentence each, what is the biggest learning in your entrepreneurship journey that's changed your life? And secondly, what is the biggest regret? So moving as the order on my screen, Marie.
The biggest regret is probably not saving more money when I had the cushy income.
It's a good one.
And what was the other one? The biggest learning?
Yeah, the biggest learning that's changed who you are.
Honestly, like finding entrepreneurship has I feel like in some ways I stopped learning when I was in the corporate world, but being an entrepreneur, I'm constantly learning and growing as a person. And so that's, I don't know, that for me has been beautiful, and I want to continue on that journey.
Well, entrepreneurship is a journey. It's amazing. It's not a destination. It's have fun on the way, lose your hair, as that's happened with me, but have fun as we go on. Over to you, the biggest learning and the biggest regret.
To me? Sorry.
Yeah, Ibrahim.
Biggest learning is, I think, appreciation of the feedback, both negative and positive. Previously, I was maybe more responsive to the feedback very quick. Now I really try to understand the feedback why it is told, and try to learn something from it. Biggest regret is why I didn't do it earlier when I was younger, had more time and spent more time without sleep, and my metabolism was faster. I could gain less weight. I could do it really earlier. That's my biggest regret.
Nice. John.
I think for me, biggest learning is I think one is don't afraid to ask questions, be it to the to the investor, the people around you, because I typically as a founder, you always think that it's always about it's only on you, right? So asking questions and asking advice is something that I've been I've been using since I actually joined and graduated from Panelists startup program. I think that's one. I think biggest regret, I would say, maybe it's not start early, right? I think that's my biggest regret. Not started early. Though I think it turns out actually good, right? Because I've learned a lot of things from the last couple of years when I started. But I guess that would be my my biggest regret.
Yeah. All right. Some great ones there. Joy, biggest learning and biggest regret.
Biggest learning is that I should trust my gut more. My biggest learning is when something is keeping you up at night, listen to it. To be, I don't want to say less trusting, but I want to be more aware that if something is sticking in your side, telling you that this is not making sense, to actually not sweep it under the rug, to actually explore it. And I think my biggest lesson is who you hire. I think my biggest lesson learned is money. Stretching the dollar. Your CFO is the most important person in your company. How you take that money it's very hard to get money, and how you stretch it is the most important thing. So if you were to ask me, like, what's my biggest learning curve? It's who you hire as a CFO either makes your company or bankrupts your company. So that who you hire in the company, I think is for those key positions is really important, because in the beginning, when you're working as a team, and you're getting money, you got to stretch every dollar. You got to have somebody who is really aware of how to get you to where you want to go with money.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to run out of money and you still have no proof of concept, and that is a dangerous place to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that another thing that I always talk about too that I think is really important is unit economics. I think people are so focused on growth that I think things have changed now. I think people, like investors, are more looking like, do you make money?
Yeah.
Right? They want to know that the unit economics makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you, everyone. We have tons of questions in the back end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to wrap up this session by one final question to all of you. The session is recorded, but we won't be sharing anything that you don't want to. So feel free to go wild on this question.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
What's next?
So what is that one word that comes to your mind for employees thinking of moving to entrepreneurship? What is that one word you will tell them of what to expect? Marie.
The one word of what to expect?
One word of one word. Sorry, what is that?
Expect the unexpected. But I mean, I think my one word is agility, right? Like whatever your idea is, when you actually start implementing it, it's not going to work out how you think it's going to work out. Even, with the best plan ever, it's just not going to be exactly what you think it's going to be. So my word is agility. You've got to remain agile.
Beautiful, man. Thank you. Ibrahim, the one word you would give to advice or what your entrepreneurship journey has been like?
I think it is focus, because you need to focus what you can do best at what would come out of the thing you do best. You cannot do everything. You cannot solve all the world problems or all the problems in your sector. So focus on one thing that you can do the best and that can bring you the best outcome.
Yeah. Brilliant word. John, the one word.
I think if you're still in the corporate life, I think I would like to be honest on this one. Don't do it. It's tough, right? But if you are on your entrepreneurship journey, I think my one word would be keep moving, right? Keep moving. That would be my word.
Yeah, brilliant. Nike would like to talk to you. John, I know this is a question you want. Joy, this is a question you wanted. The one word you want to describe your entrepreneurship journey, or the one word you want to share with aspiring entrepreneurs?
You have to probably understand this word no.
Right.
I mean, I've got a big plaque on my wall. What is this word no you speak of? So I think you have to understand that no is going to be the word that you hear. You suck, your idea sucks, this isn't going to work. No, 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 no. So I think you have to be the kind of person that has a really thick skin. And I think you gotta smile really nice and be like, okay, thanks. And just keep knocking on the doors, because everyone's going to tell you can't do it. You know, everyone's going to tell you you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you got a good idea enough. Enough is that beautiful word. And I think going back to being an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs are born, they're not made. You have to have that kind of execution mind, which is like, okay, you told me no, but I'm going to execute. Execution trumps everything. And you know what John was saying was just like, you got to keep going is exactly correct. You got to execute. And I don't think you should wait for a product. I think if you wait for perfection, you've waited way too long. Get something out and continually improve it, but get it out there. Stop focusing on how perfect it's going to be. Just get it out there and get proof of concept as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think that was really, really inspiring. We're going to move on to the audience Q&A. And obviously, you always have tech issues when you least require it. So this is my full screen. Consider this my full screen. You know, the thing we heard today is startups are hard. You know, we've had the formal advice of don't do it. Get ready to say no, solve problems. And I think that is something Founder Institute really helps you. Founder Institute is geared towards people in the ideation stage or MVP stage, or even early stage founders who may have had some funding. And it takes you, it's a 4-month long program that takes you everything from vision, product development, business, legal, and it's a robust structure. There are deliverables and it's hard. But it's not only the 4-month program that's Founder Institute. All graduates get into a care package of sorts where we still take care of you after you graduate. You're part of mailing lists, you're given coaching on fundraising, on your pitch decks, and you get access to contact details of investors all over. 2 weeks from now, 22nd July, 6 to 7 p.m. is our 3rd webinar on how to raise money for your business. It's a fundraising event. We focus on pre-seed and angel. We've had a good line of panelists and speakers for that. And the link to register is below. Now, moving on to audience Q&A and stopping my ugly screen share. Let's see. So the first question we have is for John. When is the right time to quit your day job? You're on mute, John.
I don't think there's a right time. Well, I guess, I mean, if you would like to, from the perspective of preparing yourself, you know, I mean, there's some like best practice that they were saying, like if you read in the internet, they said like at least you have like 1 year of salary that's saving, right? So you don't think about when you're starting up the company. But I don't think there's no right time. I think you will feel it, right? In my case, I felt it. I didn't think about when I would like to resign from the corporate life. It was same day I was driving from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, and I said like, you know what? I think this is the best time. This is enough. You know, I've done my fair share. I print my resignation. I create my resignation letter. Went to the VP and then just asked him like, if I failed on this one, would you be able to hire me back? And that's the only word that I've mentioned. But in my opinion, it is the right time now. Maybe it's now, but you never know when it's that. But for me, it's more on if you feel that it's the right time, I would say it is the right time.
Yeah, I like the conflicting message. Earlier you said don't do it, and you said that now you said the time is now. But I think that's the great advice for entrepreneurs. You'll always get conflicting messages. And like Joy said, trust your gut more. Be prepared.
I think it's for my case, I think it's more on the gut side, right? Because I've experienced it already, and I think I was already on the inflection point of. I think my next stage would be entrepreneurship, right? I don't see myself working for another company, in my opinion, and that's why I thought, like, I think, I've learned building companies from the past. Like, I've seen it in, becoming an HR. I've done all this admin stuff, so I guess I've learned from the past, and then I was like carrying all those learning and said, like, hey, I think this is my last shot. And then doing this last shot for me is focusing only in one idea, switch off all the companies I built from the past, get out from the corporate job and just do this 100% and not half-heartedly like what I've done before.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, John. The next question is for Marie. How do you get the right technology partner to build your solutions? How do you help build the tech side, and how do you find a tech co-founder, I'm assuming?
Well, I didn't have the luxury of starting with a tech co-founder, but I definitely made some mistakes in the beginning, and it goes back to an earlier point I made about building a network of people you can ask questions to. So if I had actually called the first company I used who built my website and asked any one of their other customers whether they did a good job, I would never have signed with them, but I didn't think to do that. The first time I had hired a tech company and I regretted it, right? So I did it very differently the next time around. So I think every business is different. So you have to figure out what technology platform works for you. But once you think you figured it out, ask lots of people who are experts in that area and see the good and the bad, because no technology platform is perfect.
Yeah. I think finding a tech co-founder is one of the hardest things you can do if you're not
the hardest.
Like, it's a very tiny Venn diagram of good tech talent, entrepreneurial talent, people who get along.
I actually think the two hardest roles to fill. CFO is not a hard role to fill because that's experience, right? But the two hardest roles are Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Technology Officer, because tech is a very tough thing to do. And marketing is a very hard thing to do when you don't have huge budgets.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that.
Doing marketing without money is a talent.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've made mistakes in other companies where I've hired somebody who was, amazing. She was the chief marketing from Forever 21, thinking I was a genius. But at the end of the day, she can only bring in customers if she had a budget of like multi-million dollars. And the one thing you don't have in a startup is a budget of multi-million dollars. So finding somebody who can market your brand with no money and somebody who can build technology are the two hardest things to find. John, am I right?
Completely agree on that one. I think what you need to look at from the startup, especially if you're starting, is someone who can hustle and kind of do that, market or do something that don't scale. Like that's what they said, right? So go out in there and acquire user, because as a startup, you're trying to rely on the things that doesn't need money, right? That's when when we were starting in Denarii, we used to go to one of the place in Saudi. It's called Bata, where we went there and then we talked to every single. Bata basically is like a Karama of Saudi Arabia. We went there on the weekend and we talked to every single Filipino and put them in one restaurant, and then we tell them our story. And in 2 hours, we got our first 100 customers. And you need to do that.
Amazing.
If you are a startup, you cannot rely on a budget only and then rely on the marketing.
Exactly.
So I totally agree on that one.
It's like the famous Airbnb story. They were in California. Most of the customers in the beginning were in New York. They went door to door of the potential hosts in New York back then. To scale, you need to do things that don't scale.
Yes, you got to be street smart.
Yeah.
You got to be street smart. You got to be grungy. You got to get down. You can't be sitting in a corporate, office. You got to get out there and be creative and literally get street smart, right?
Yeah.
And that's it's part of being an entrepreneur.
Definitely. We have time for, I think, just one final question. I'm going to ask it to you, Ibrahim. I'm picking this out because I think it's interesting and it has a lot of, interesting preconceptions about it. So the question is, when is the right time to start telling people about your quote unquote secret idea? And I know there are two sides to a coin or to this question. So what are your thoughts? What is your advice?
I think secret idea, there's no secret idea because every idea can come to anyone's mind. So it's about how you execute it. So even someone executed it 1 week before you, you can still do better.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no secret idea. So you can start getting feedback from everyone about your idea. They will not steal it. If you know how to do it better, you will do it better. So, or if you do it and reveal it after you start the product, and someone can come and do the idea again. So there's no right time or early or late time. So the idea is your secret idea should be a best idea that you can execute and you can add your value on top of that. So if it's a good idea that you can execute and you are the person who can create this idea, that's a very good idea, but I don't believe in secret ideas.
Yep.
Spot on. You know, there is there is actually research there that depending on who you ask, the factor that your idea plays a factor in your success is only between 1 to 5%. Everything is on execution, your networking, operations, everything. Well, this has been such an amazing chat. It feels like I'm in the living room with some few friends over here. Marie, Ibrahim, John, and Joy, I'd really like to thank you for taking your time out here today. It's been a real pleasure speaking to all of you. And I'd also like to thank my Founder Institute Dubai directors, Santillan and Samir, who are actually working with us in the back end, monitoring all the questions and making sure everything goes smoothly. It's been a pleasure. It's been a learning experience for me as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope everyone here enjoyed the session. I've been seeing a few comments saying that this conversation is really, really interesting. I'm very happy to hear that, and I hope the panelists are happy to hear that. You know, just to wrap up, you know, Founder Institute helps you provide structure, content, you know, the little beating on your wrist once in a while, and the access to mentors and investors who are actually invested in your journey. So we do everything that we can to make sure you launch an enduring company. Should you need more details, do go to fi.co/join/Dubai. And if you have any further questions that you'd like to ask us after this session, please feel free to contact dubai@fichapter.com. So from all the panelists from our that we have here, and from Sandhya, Samir, and Amna, I'd like to thank all the attendees for being here. And once again, our superstar panel.